relation to calendar 1525, those recorded in the negative are Senators Akshar, Griffo, and Little. Ayes 56, nays 3.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1532 by Senator Hassel Thompson, Senate Print 2020, enact amended penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Announce the result.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1548 by Member of the Assembly Jaffe, Assembly Print 6823, enact amended town law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Defran's down.
Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator DeFrancisco recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1550 by Senator DeFrancisco, Senate Print 5131, enacted in relation to authorizing.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Richie's down. Richie is down. Yes. Yep. Can I send her Cooper? Yeah, we'll send her Kruger.
All right, Senator Kruger, to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to explain my vote no. Although every time I say the word climate change on this floor, I seem to get a fizzle of noise behind me somewhere, I will just go on record again. Thank you. Thank you, people. I appreciate everybody responding as I expected. Climate change is real. We all know it. We need to move quickly to respond, to try to reverse the damage that's already been taking place. The governor's REV package of moving us into a sustainable energy model for the state, allowing for new forms of energy, prioritizing those types of energy that do not add to the greenhouse gas crisis in our state, our country, our planet, is the right answer. While we always want more information as a legislature, while we always want everybody to be transparent and report to us what is going on, what this bill would do is slow down the entire process. And in fact, I do believe that the reports coming out of the governor's REV group of experts has been providing a great deal of information to us. So I would urge my colleagues not to take a vote to slow down the kind of change we need to be speeding up in New York State, not slowing down. We have a commitment to change our mix of energy within a very short period of years. There are those who are advocating we move even more swiftly than the commitments we have made. We need to make sure our agencies, in coordination with the private sector, can move us quickly into a 21st century model of sustainable energy while decreasing our greenhouse gas footprint. And I don't believe any of us can go home and explain why we didn't want to move as quickly as we could towards that goal. I vote no, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Kruger, to be recorded in the negative. Senator Hoylman.
This is a good a moment as any to commend the Cuomo administration for their Reforming the Energy Vision initiative, which is a potential game changer that will wean the state of New York off of fossil fuels and onto more sustainable forms of energy like wind and solar. And to think that this body would delay that implementation given the existential threat, which we hear repeatedly termed for human-induced climate change, is baffling. I tend to think that our friends on the other side of the aisle hate regulation unless it works to their benefit. In this instance, they want to impose a cost-benefit analysis on REV, but one already exists. It's called Order Establishing the Benefit Cost Analysis Framework. So not only, I think, is there a pernicious motive here to undermine REV, but also it's duplicative and unnecessary because the cost-benefit analysis is already in place and ready to go. So I'll be voting in the negative. Thank you.
Senator Hoylman to be recorded in the negative. All members wishing to be recorded in the negative, please show of hands. Senator DeFrancisco to close.
Yes, I just wanted to say what this bill really is. Even if everything that the prior senators who explained their vote is true, not that I agree with everything that was said, but let's assume it's true. All this bill does is require that before we implement specific pieces of the REV policy, we make a cost-benefit analysis. Now, of course, it could slow things down, but I think people would want to know what the cost of option A is, option B, option C, option D, and choose from those various cost analyses what's good for the environment and also what's good for the taxpayers of the state. To suggest that we don't want to slow it down seems to me to be a little bit short-sighted. We should pass on that analysis every bill and forget about a financial analysis. Just do it. Like there's an unlimited amount of money and taxpayers could open their pockets to anything, whether cost-effective or not. So that's the intent of the bill, and I appreciate those who are supporting it for the right reasons. Thank you.
Announce the result.
Duration of calendar 1550. Those recorded in the negative are Senators Addabbo, Avella, Breslin, Carlucci, Comrie, Delan, Espaillat, Gianaris, Hamilton, Hassel-Thompson. Right.
We're in the hole now. We're 31. We need them both.
Announce the results.
Relation to calendar 1550. Those recorded in the negative are Senators Addabbo, Avella, Breslin, Carlucci, Comrie, Delan, Espaillat, Gianaris, Hamilton, Hassel-Thompson, Hoylman, Kaminsky, Kennedy, Klein, Kruger, Latimer, Montgomery, Parker, Peralta, Perkins, Persaud, Rivera, Sanders, Serrano, Squadron, Stavisky, and Stewart Cousins. Ayes 33, nays 27.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1555 by Senator Espaillat, Senate Print 5941A, enact amendment of criminal procedure law.
Read the last section.
Section 7, this act should take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Announce the result.
Ayes 60.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1559 by Senator Ravello, Senate Print 6373, enacted on the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 60.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1565 by Senator Kruger, Senate Print 6715, enacted on the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Announce the result.
Ayes 60.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1570 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 2150, enacted on the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect on the 180th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Sereno. Croce. Griffo, Sereno, and Croce.
Announce the result.
In relation to calendar 1570, those recorded in the negative are Senators Croce, Griffo, Martins, Murphy, Sereno, and Seward. Ayes 54, nays 6.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1593 by Senator Valesky, Senate Print 7976, enactment of the state finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect on the 60th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Announce the result.
Ayes 60.
Bill is passed. Mr. Floor Leader, that completes the non-controversial reading of the calendar.
Thank you. Could we please return to motions and resolutions?
Motions and resolutions.
I wish to call up Senator Sereno's bill, print 6705, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 1109 by Senator Sereno, Senate Print 6705, enactment of vehicle and traffic law.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 60.
I now offer the following amendments.
Amendments are received.
I also wish to call up Senator LaValle's bill, Senate Print 4969A, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 925 by Senator Laval, Senate Print 4969A, enactment of the education law.
I now offer the following amendments.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 60.
Floor Leader.
Yes, I would now like to call up the, well, let me do it individually. On page number 57, I offer the following amendments to calendar 1504, Senate Print 6915A by Senator Ort, and ask that the bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendments are received on the prior bill. That amendment is received and it will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Thank you. On page 45, I offer the following amendments to calendar 1283 by Senator Seward, Senate Bill Print 4108C, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Amendments are received. It will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Also, for the last one, on page number 23, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 810, Senate Print 6315, that's my bill, and ask that the said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Amendment is received. It will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Would you please recognize Senator Serrano?
Senator Serrano.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Leader Stewart Cousins, on page number 45, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 1290, Senate Bill number 2243, and I ask that the said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
That amendment is received. It will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
We now have one nomination, and in order to bring that nomination to the floor, we have to do a committee meeting of Crime and Corrections, immediately followed by a committee meeting of Finance. So I'm calling the immediate meeting of the Crime and Corrections Committee meeting for room 332, and If you're on the Finance Committee, just stay there, because the Finance Committee is going to go immediately following, and then we'll bring the nominee here if he is passed on by the committee. So, immediate meeting of Crime and Corrections Committee, followed by a meeting immediately after at room 332 for Finance.
There's an immediate meeting of Crime and Corrections in room number 332, followed by an immediate meeting of the Finance Committee in room 332. The Senate will stand at ease. Right. Senate will come to order.
Is there a report of the Finance Committee at the desk?
Secretary will read.
Senator Young from the Committee on Finance reports the following nomination. As Superintendent of State Police, Lieutenant Colonel George P. Beach of Hurley.
Senator,
I move to accept the report of the Finance Committee, if I have to.
You don't have to.
If I don't, I don't move to accept.
you don't have to.
All right, all right. Can you call on Senator Young, please?
Be happy to. Senator Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. It truly is an honor and a privilege to move the nomination of Lieutenant Colonel George P. Beach II as Superintendent of the New York State Police. At this point, I would defer to my colleague, Senator Patrick Gallivan, who is the chair of the Crime and Corrections Committee.
Senator Gallivan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Young. I rise to second the nomination of George P. Beach as the next Superintendent of State Police. He did pass through the Crime and Corrections Committee unanimously. Many of you know that at one point in time I served in the state police. I worked with George Beach for many, many years. He has served over 30 years in the state police, moving up through the ranks, almost every single rank, up to the executive level in the position of Lieutenant Colonel. He is incredibly qualified for this, professionally, personally, a man of honor, integrity, intelligence. And I put all those things first because that's the type of person that we should have as a superintendent of the nation's 8th or 9th largest law enforcement agency in New York's finest. Beyond that, I also rise and am very proud to second this nomination as a longtime friend of George Beach's. And on that personal note, I can't think of a finer, more upstanding individual, honor, integrity, the type of person that not only do we want in public service, but to lead this great agency. So I congratulate the governor on his nomination, and I congratulate you, my friend, Colonel George Beach, now to be superintendent, and look forward to working with you in that capacity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gallivan. The question is on the excuse me. Pardon me, Senator Young.
Thank you. I would like to chime in to the remarks of my colleague, Senator Gallivan. And we are very fortunate in New York State to have someone of such a high caliber who is willing to serve as superintendent of the state police. Lieutenant Colonel Beach has devoted his life to public safety, public service. He has an extensive career serving to protect the public, serving in emergency medical services, serving in firefighting, and also conducting investigations. He is dedicated to promoting positive change, and he also is devoted to upholding the highest ethical standards. He has led by example because he has done the hard work that our brave men and women in the state police accomplish every single day. He's been on a road patrol, he has been in manhunts, he has conducted murder investigations, all of the hard work that the people who serve in our distinguished state police has been done by this individual. And leading by example is critical if you are working to be the head of such an important state agency. So it is with great pride that I also nominate and put forward the name of Lieutenant Colonel George P. Beach II as Superintendent of the New York State Police. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Young. Senator Nozzolio.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the nomination. Mr. President, my colleagues, I rise in support of this nomination, joining Senators Young and Gallivan in supporting what I believe will be a very successful new superintendent of the state police. In the course of my representation, I've been honored to be in the confirmation process of at least half a dozen superintendents. And certainly many of them have served with distinction, especially retiring Superintendent D'Amico. Superintendent McMahon, who served with distinction for many years, comes to mind. Listening to Colonel Beach discussing the mission statement that he brings to this new job was extremely gratifying to me, and I believe demonstrates clearly that our new superintendent is on the right track. The demands of the state police are many, from helping in our schools, on our roads, throughout upstate, providing tremendous law enforcement services. We see those each and every day, but there are many services that our New York State Police provide that we do not see, particularly in the areas of cybersecurity, as that becomes much more of a growing threat across the businesses and individuals and governments of New York State. The new superintendent is committed to working on those important issues. That again, I wish Superintendent Beach all good speed and the success during his tenure, and that do hope that he will certainly have a career that is among those most emulated as the former superintendents of the finest police force, I believe, in the nation. Thank you, Mr. President. I proudly support this nomination.
Thank you, Senator Nozzolio. Senator Amador.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today in support of this nomination, and I'm extremely proud that the next superintendent of the state police, Lieutenant Colonel George Beach, is a constituent of mine of the 46th Senate District. He lives in the town of Hurley. I had the opportunity to spend some time with him, and after reviewing his impressive accomplishments within the ranks of the state police, I have great confidence that he has the experience, the courage, and the convictions to excel in his new leadership role. In more than 30 years' experience of service, he has worked his way up through the ranks of the New York State Police, building extensive experience in crisis response, in emergency management, in policy development, and administrative operations. These experiences will serve the residents of the state of New York very well in his new role. Our state police are on the front lines of keeping our communities safe throughout the state of New York. And I want to congratulate you, Colonel Beach. But more importantly, I want to thank you for deciding to continue your public service to this great state by taking on this ambitious challenge. And I am sure we will all continue to be protected as you serve and as you lead our great state police force. We will all feel safe and know that we have a very good leader at the helm. Congratulations and thank you. Mr. President, I support this nomination.
Thank you, Senator Amador. Senator Croce.
Certainly, the men and women of law enforcement know better than any other. This is a time for law enforcement in this country that is not for the faint of heart. It takes a very unique individual to lead an organization of law enforcement, especially at the scope and professionalism of those of the state police and state troopers. This nomination comes at a particularly important juncture in our state's history with the threats of international terrorism to New York and the new challenges that domestic radicalization pose on our state and our nation. I believe that Colonel Beach is precisely the right man at precisely the right time in New York's history to be leading this organization. And the men and women of the troopers consider him to be a trooper's trooper. And it's very rare in military or in uniformed services in law enforcement that you get to choose your own leader. But I have a feeling if the troopers were to have the opportunity to choose their own leader, it would be Colonel Beach. And so I compliment the governor on an excellent choice to lead the state troopers, and I congratulate our new superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Croce. Any other members wishing to be heard? Hearing none, the question is on the nomination of Lieutenant Colonel George P. Beach as Superintendent of the State Police. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Lieutenant Colonel George P. Beach is hereby appointed Superintendent of the State Police. Superintendent, on behalf of a grateful state and the New York State Senate, we congratulate you. Mr. Floor Leader.
And Superintendent, it's okay to smile. It's okay. Congratulations. Can we now return to messages from the Assembly?
Secretary will read. Excuse me.
Okay, all right, fine. Not yet. Motions.
Floor Leader, we can't do that just yet.
Then can we turn to messages and resolutions?
Motions and resolutions, we can.
We can do that?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it then. I wish to call up Senator Hannon's Bill 7873A, recall from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 1401 by Senator Hannon, Senate Print 7873A, enactment of the public health law.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Dabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young, ayes 60.
I now offer the following amendments.
Amendments are received.
Next, on page 51, I offer the following amendments to calendar 1360, Senate Print 7828 by Senator Little, and ask that the bill
Can I have some order in the House, please?
retain its place on third reading.
Amendments are received. The bill shall retain its place on third reading calendar.
Would you please recognize Senator Valesky?
Senator Valesky.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Senator Savino, on page 20, I offer the following amendments to calendar 744, Senate Bill 7386, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Amendments are received. The bill shall retain its place on the third reading calendar.
At this point, it's my understanding that the minority would like the opportunity to conference some bills that will be on the rules calendar, and it's my understanding with the consent of the minority council that we will be that meeting will be called immediately, and 30 minutes thereafter, 5 minutes to 3, we will have a rules committee meeting in 3:32. Correct?
Okay, so the minority is going to have a meeting, and then the Rules Committee is going to have a meeting 30 minutes thereafter in room 332.
So if you're on the Rules Committee,
Make sure you're
please go to the conference room 332, maybe 2 minutes ahead of 2:55, so that we can move pronto.
Thank you, Floor Leader. The Senate shall stand at ease. Senate will come to order. Senator DeFrancisco.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that there's a report of the Rules Committee at the desk.
There is. The Secretary will read.
Senator Flanagan from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate 115A by Senator Diaz, enact amend the Elder Law. Senate 276A by Senator Laval, enact amend the Education Law. Senate 292 by Senator Martins, enact amend the Civil Practice Law and Rules. Senate 392 by Senator Gallivan, enact amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law. Senate 443 by Senator Gallivan, enact amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law. Senate 625 by Senator Valesky, enact amend the Public Health Law. Senate 1523 by Senator Klein, enact amend the Penal Law. Senate 1533 by Senator Little, enact amend the General Municipal Law. Senate 3034 by Senator Hoylman, enact amend the Public Authorities Law. Senate 3318A by Senator Lanza, enact amend the Real Property Law. Senate 3672 by Senator Savino, enact amend the Tax Law. Senate 3673 by Senator Savino, enact amend the Tax Law. Senate 3957B by Senator Laval, enact amend the General Municipal Law. Senate 4172 by Senator Felder, enact authorize. Senate 4550A by Senator Parker, enact amend the Penal Law. Senate 4657A by Senator Lanza, enact amend the Judiciary Law. Senate 4842A by Senator Martins, enact amend the Real Property Tax Law. Senate 5239A by Senator Funky, enact amend the General Municipal Law. Senate 5378 by Senator Avella, enact amend the Environmental Conservation Law. Senate 5400 by Senator Amador, enact amend the Public Authorities Law. Senate 5542B by Senator Bonasek, enact to amend the Executive Law. Senate 5644 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Real Property Law. Senate 5771A by Senator Murphy, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 5834A by Senator Felder, enact to authorize. Senate 5842B by Senator Croce, enact to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 5858B by Senator Venditto, enact to amend the Town Law. Senate 6042 by Senator Little, enact to amend the Chapter 308 of the laws of 2012. Senate 6362 by Senator Croce, enact to amend the Real Property Tax Law. Senate 6546 by Senator Bonasek, enact to amend the Real Property Tax Law. Senate 6575 by Senator DeFrancisco, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 6892 by Senator Rivera, enact to amend the Corrections Law. Senate 6933 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 6943A by Senator DeFrancisco, enact to amend the Tax Law. Senate 6978 by Senator Akshar, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7034A by Senator Carlucci, enact to amend the Tax Law. Senate 7066A by Senator Akshar, enact to amend the Highway Law. Senate 7112 by Senator Gold, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7259 by Senator Laval, enact in relation to. Senate 7279 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7298 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7328 by Senator O'Mara, enact to amend the Uniform Justice Court Act. Senate 7333 by Senator Serino, enact to amend the Social Services Law. Senate 7334 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7337 by Senator Akshar, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7344A by Senator Boyle, enact to validate. Senate 7346 by Senator Funky, enact to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law. Senate 7361 by Senator Akshar, enact to amend the Uniform City Court Act. Senate 7362 by Senator Akshar, enact to amend the Judiciary Law. Senate 7401 by Senator Marcelino, enact to amend the Environmental Conservation Law. Senate 7407 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7427A by Senator Avella, enact to amend the Social Services Law. Senate 7433 by Senator Hannan, enact to amend the Social Services Law. Senate 7437 by Senator Robach, enact to amend the Public Health Law. Senate 7513A by Senator Ranzenhofer, enact to amend the Executive Law. Senate 7592 by the Senate Committee on Rules, enact to authorize. Senate 7635A by Senator Croce, enact to authorize. Senate 7697 by Senator Ravella, enact a direct. Senate 7702 by Senator Serino, enact amend the real property tax law. Senate 7730 by Senator Boyle, enact amend the penal law. Senate 7732 by Senator Boyle, enact amend the public housing law. Senate 7751 by Senator Orr, concurrent resolution in the Senate and Assembly. Senate 7760 by Senator Hassel-Thompson, enact in relation to authorizing. Senate 7772A by Senator Laval, enact amend the environmental conservation law. Senate 7859 by Senator Stuart Cousins, enact amend the real property tax law. Senate 7877 by Senator Croce, enact amend the general municipal law. Senate 7905 by Senator Lanza, enact amend Chapter 396 of the laws of 2010. Senate 7911C by Senator Marcelino, enact authorizing. Senate 7939 by Senator Laval, enact authorize. Senate 7943 by Senator Flanagan, enact authorize. Senate 7966 by Senator Farley, enact approving land transactions. Senate 8026 by Senator Little, concurrent resolution of the Senate and Assembly. All bills reported direct to third reading.
All in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.